Hi, everybody. It's Randy with Direct Action. This podcast is brought to you by Carcajou Tactical and Grey Fox Strategic, two Canadian-owned and operated companies here in the National Capital Region. For your Direct Action DA10 code, plug that into Grey Fox Strategic when you go on their website and you're looking for your next purchase. Type in DA10 for a 10% discount off Grey Fox Strategic equipment and apparel. All right, what's up, everybody? It's Randy with Direct Action here. We got an awesome podcast guest, Serge Gevork. Gevorkin. How about, Sergey, you introduce yourself? All right, so who we have here is a longtime friend of mine. I've known him for over a decade. Great wrestling practitioner, great wrestling coach, all around genuine good human being. Sergey, if you introduce yourself to the crowd with proper pronunciation of your last name.
It's Serge Gevork.
Right on. And where did you grow up, Sergey? What what kind of inspired you to get into the wrestling sport? And tell us a little bit about you.
Mm-hmm. So I was born in Moscow to Armenian parents. My ancestry comes from a small region in Armenia called Artsakh. I grew up in Moscow until the age of 17. I finished my high school there, and then at the age of 17, with my family, we moved to Canada. And the inspiration for wrestling came from my father, who used to wrestle as well. So my father wrestled for about 5-6 years. He even had a title called Master of Sport. In the Soviet Union, they gave titles for achieving certain achievements. Right. He used to wrestle in a city called Baku. And he was a champion of that city, and he was a champion of that republic where he lived at the time.
Wow.
So he wrestled until the age of 18, then he went to the army, and this was pretty much it for his wrestling. After he was done with the army at the age of 20, he just went to work and never pursued wrestling anymore because he couldn't.
In Russia at that time, and it may still be the case, but is it conscription? So between the ages of 18 and 20, everyone serves in the military?
Yes,
right.
Yes. It was like this in the Soviet times, and it's like this now. In fact, in the Soviet times, until 70s, it was for 3 years.
3 years.
Yes. And before that, in the times of Tsar, so before 1917, a certain number of people, a certain number of men in the family had to serve in the army for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
So my great-grandfather was chosen to be the one, and he served in the army for 25 years.
Wow.
He went through the World War I and was even captured by Germans.
Wow.
And then he was able to come back only like in 1922.
And did your grandfather share stories with your dad? Your dad share stories with you on, what that experience for him was like?
So we have some stories from my grandfather. I was only 7 years old when my grandfather passed away, but I spoke to other family members who have met my great-grandfather. So he was drafted to the army in probably beginning of 20th century. Then he was drawn to World War I, and he received two honors called Georgian Cross.
Yeah.
So one was first degree and one was third degree. So those were lost during Soviet times. I don't know if they got repossessed or they were sold because they needed money. But we don't have those in the family anymore. And some of the stories I have is that he was captured by Germans in about 1915 or 16. And then he was basically in a labor camp where one Armenian man noticed him, who was from Germany as well, who was a businessman. And he brought him to work at his, I guess it was a factory. And then when the World War I was done, he offered him to stay. And then my great-grandfather said, no, I would like to come back to where my family is. Yeah. Yes. So when he came back, Armenia was already fallen, it was under communists, and everything was gone pretty much.
Right.
So all the lands they had, everything was repossessed.
So when you were growing up in Moscow, so you were there for all of your childhood and you went to high school there. For folks that don't fully understand or maybe would find it interesting. Living in a communist regime and control, like what were some of the day-to-day things that you remember as a kid growing up that are completely, vastly different from what we see in Canada?
So I was born in 1985 and the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. I was a child when that happened, but I remember a few things. So I was born during the time of Gorbachev, perestroika. I don't know if you heard the term. Glasnost, meaning openness. There was scarcity of food, scarcity of goods. The stores were empty. We're getting special checks to go get food. My father was working at the time as a welder, and at some point the factory had no money, so they started paying them in tools and certain things that you could trade for other goods. Yes.
Wow.
And
so
at some point, even the part of his salary was paid in lottery tickets.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. And in that time, would it be common for communities to help each other out, knowing that things like just your daily amenities are scarce and you can't get the things that you would normally get? So you find that it brought the communities together and they were tighter knit, or did it create separation and people were kind of like, this is mine and I'm keeping it to myself? What did you see?
No, definitely it was all about the community. So it brought people together. We lived in a communal home where one apartment was shared by 3 families.
Oh, wow.
So we had 1 bedroom and there were 2 other bedrooms used by 2 other families. So we had 1 bathroom for 3 families.
Wow.
1 kitchen for 3 families. The kitchen was smaller than this spot
space,
here. Yeah, it
Wow.
was, I think it was about 100 square feet. So we had 3 fridges, 1 table in the middle, and you would take turns eating. But on the other side, our doors were always open. Our neighbors from other apartments could come in at any time. You could go and ask somebody for salt, for sugar. It was not an issue, and everyone knew each other.
So in that community living environment, would all 3 families cook together, eat together, or was it just a matter of who happened to be around and whatever was available, the kids would eat, the adults would eat, or how would that kind of look?
No, it was all separate. So each family cooked for themselves.
Okay.
So this is why there were 3 fridges for each family. But people shared a lot with each other.
Right. Wow. So, man, so different than what we see here in Canada for sure.
It is.
So your dad influenced you and really had a large part to play in your wrestling pedigree. Was growing up as a kid with your dad, was it consistently like wrestling with each other, kind of messing around with each other, or did you guys have like dedicated discipline sessions that he would plan for you to train together?
No, we never wrestled with my dad. I wrestled with my younger brother just for fun. But I remember his dad speaking about wrestling all the time. And that influenced me. I always wanted to wrestle, but we didn't have a wrestling club nearby.
Okay.
And nobody could take me there. So I started wrestling at the age of 14 when I was able to take a bus, then take a metro, and then long walk after school. But before that, my father influenced me to start doing weights. I remember I started wrestling grade 9 and I was already fit. So grade 7, I couldn't do a single chin-up. And grade 8, like in the summer, he started working with me, just trying to open up some interest in weights. So what we started doing, he was helping me to do chin-ups. He put a chin-up bar, and I was able to do 1 that summer. And then we had a board where I would write down my progress, and it's
cool.
It made it fun.
Yeah.
And I remember I started the school year in September with 9 chin-ups, and we did a test at school every month.
Every month?
Yeah, every month we would do a test, like for push-ups, chin-ups, and it was 1 kilometer run.
Right.
Yeah, and so I started with 9.
Yeah.
And there was one of my friends who was doing over 20 at that time.
Yeah.
He started with over 20.
Right.
That summer. So I started with 9. Then next test I did 13.
Yeah.
Then the test after I went to 11. And then I went to 18, 21, and then 23, and I beat my friend who was doing like 21, like all these times. And I was able to beat him by May. So I did 23 chin-ups.
Man, how cool is that, knowing that every month you're going to do this test that's administered by the school, right? So the school's going to put you through it. And you know that next test, well, I got a month to get a little bit better.
Yes.
Next test, I got a month to get a little bit better. That's cool.
Yes. And we actually set a goal for me to do over 20 chin-ups.
Yeah.
So imagine, like our goal was for a year. I went from 0 chin-ups to 20. So it was a big goal, right?
That's a big improvement.
But I did small steps for it.
Right.
Like over the summer, I went 1, and then like 3, 5, and then in September 9, and then I moved my way up. And when I started wrestling, I kept doing like certain exercises like after classes. And at some point, I even achieved muscle ups, like over 20 muscle ups.
Oh, wow.
When I was about 16, 17 years old.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you mentioned your brother, so younger brother, any other siblings?
Yeah, I have 2 brothers.
2 older or younger?
Both younger.
Both younger.
One of them is 3 years younger, the other one is 13 years younger.
13 years younger.
Yes.
Wow. And good relationship with your 2 younger brothers?
Yes. So with my middle one, it was like smaller gap.
Yeah.
So it was competitive. We would fight sometimes as well.
Yeah.
But with the other one, it's like
it's a big
he's my child. Yes.
Yeah. And growing up as a kid with the closest younger brother, the 2-year difference. So would he be a wrestling partner for you? Was he into it as much as you were, or did he have other interests?
No, he had other interests, but he was pretty good. He was gifted naturally, but never pursued it.
Right.
I was older, so I was always stronger.
Right.
But he went very hard at it.
Yeah.
Like, he would go all the way.
Very cool.
And I would try to be the one controlling it to make sure that nothing bad happens.
So then you're 17 years old. Do you remember, I'm sure you remember the move, but what was the deciding factor for your family to come to Canada?
So even in the Soviet times in 1980s, my father wanted to move away. He wanted to move to the West.
Yeah.
For freedoms, for other, for capital, for other beauties of a democratic society.
Right.
But he wasn't able to do it at those times.
Yeah.
At some point in 1991, he applied to move to South Africa. But something went wrong. We got the documents, and I don't remember what exactly went off, but we never went. We never moved there. And then years later, we tried for the U.S. and Canada worked out. Right. And it was a long process, 3 years.
Yeah, I remember my father-in-law from Russia as well, and chatting about his journey across the pond, and he said it wasn't easy. It was difficult. They traveled really light. Basically had a suitcase each, and a few dollars in their pocket, and then kind of made a run for it. So, what he shared with me sounds very similar to what you and your family went through to get here. But perseverance, they pushed through, they got here. And then, where did you and your family first set up? Were you in Newfoundland? Were you in out west? Or
no, we moved to Montreal because we had family friends who lived in Montreal.
Okay. And you still have family there now, right?
Yes, I still have relatives in Montreal. And Montreal had one of the best wrestling clubs in Canada.
So even back then, it was well known?
Yes, even back then.
Wow.
Yes.
Let's talk about it. So that's where we met, so the Montreal Wrestling Club.
Yes.
And I think it was 2010, 2011 timeframe. Sergey and I started training together at the Montreal Wrestling Club. So I was still at the unit at the time. Every Tuesday, every Thursday, I would leave the unit as soon as I was done and then jump in the vehicle. I would drive to Montreal, 2-hour drive, get my ass handed to me for 2 hours on the wrestling mat by a bunch of high-level athletes, and then drive back. So I did that for 2 years straight between 2011 and 2013 for the most part, and that's where we met. So Sergey was one of the few that maybe felt sorry for me, took me under his wing and actually showed me a few things, but a lot of the athletes there were all business, all serious, and it was awesome, a great experience. But for viewers, I mean, from firsthand, you were there for a long, long time. What was the Montreal Wrestling Club like, and what's it like today? Because I know you still make your way there once in a while, but tell us about the Montreal Wrestling Club.
I remember we landed in Montreal on Tuesday, and on Thursday I was already wrestling.
Really?
Yes, it took about a month to put me to school, but it took like a couple of days for me to start wrestling. So this was my base.
Wow.
My whole life in Canada was built around wrestling.
Wow.
So because of wrestling, I went to Vanier College. Because of wrestling, I went to Concordia University. And even when I was done wrestling, my coach, Victor Zilberman, always pursued me to continue my education.
Right.
And it was one of the factors, I guess, that I went to graduate school and got 2 other graduate degrees.
So just so I'm clear, when your dad, your family, you chose to go to Montreal, the main reason was because it gave you that foundation, that outlet of wrestling. That's the main reason?
It was one of the main reasons,
wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So one of them was we had friends, family friends, and the second reason was Montreal Wrestling Club.
Right on. So you land in Canada on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Literally 48 hours later, you're wrestling. And how did that look? So you walk in, you shake Victor's hand, tell him who you are, and he welcomes you with open arms, or how did it work?
Well, we called the day before.
Yeah.
We got Victor's number. Somebody gave it to us.
Yeah.
And he said, no problem, just come tomorrow and we're going to wrestle. So we came, we met him.
Yeah.
So as you know, Victor speaks Russian as well.
Yeah.
He was born in the Soviet Union in Moldova.
Right.
And then in 70s, he moved to Canada. He even competed at the Olympic Games in Montreal, 1976.
He did? Oh,
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes.
And when I met you, his son had a big part to play in the functioning of the gym as well. How well do you know David?
We're pretty much the same generation.
Right.
He was born 1982, I was born 1985.
Right.
So we wrestled at the same competitions. We did road trips together.
Right on.
Yes, and as I was done wrestling, he was already coaching at that time.
Right. So you're 17, 18 years old, now training consistently. And what did the training regime look like? How often were you on the mat at that time?
We had wrestling practices 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday night, and Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And they lasted for 3 hours. And then we had soccer at least twice a week. We had wrestling basketball where you could hold and pull each other 3 times a week. We had gymnastics at least twice a week, swim about once a week. We did weights.
And that was all of those activities that you just mentioned, that was with the group of wrestling
with the
athletes?
group. Exactly, exactly. So it was everything was set up for us to train in one place. We'd meet in the morning, would play soccer, basketball, then would do technique. Or we could do weights after that, and then we'd go to school, come back at night and wrestle. And the nights when we didn't have wrestling practice, it could be gymnastics, it could be weights, it could be swim.
But always with the same group of people?
Always with the same group of people and always in the same facilities. So we're lucky enough because we got to train at YMHA.
Right.
Plus Vanier.
Yeah, and that's a great facility. For anybody that hasn't been there before, that's a really, really well done facility. What in the early days, so later teenager, what would you share with the viewers about the culture on the mat? Because I could not help but acknowledge when you step onto that mat, this is just my perspective, but I want to get your perspective. You step on that mat, you could tell it's all business, all serious. Sure, people are having subtle conversations off on the side, but not very often. It's, they're either wrestling, drinking water, using the washroom, or wrestling. And I could not believe from the moment the practice started until it ended, everybody was on. The culture is, it's quite unique. But what did you take away from it? What drew it to you? What drew you to it? But what do you see as value added, and what are you thankful for going through all those years with Victor and the team?
It was very similar to what I had experienced in Russia.
Really?
It was very serious as well.
Yeah.
So let me just go back to Russian training.
Please.
So I did Greco-Roman wrestling in Russia.
Yeah.
And I did it for about 3 years, from the age of 14 to the age of 17. And so we trained 5 times a week at night because I was at school in the morning.
Right.
I couldn't train in the morning. And it was serious as well. It was all business. So you step on the mat. There's always a class before you. Mm-hmm. There's always a class after you, and it's always very, very busy.
Right.
And our practice lasted for 2 hours. Warm up included a lot of gymnastics, a lot of plyometrics.
Yeah.
I would say at least 20 to 25 minutes warm up.
Right.
And you're already sweating.
Right.
Then technique, then drills, and then once a week would do matches.
Right.
As if it's a competition where other people watch you wrestle.
And for viewers that maybe don't know, how would you exemplify or describe Greco-Roman wrestling different from freestyle wrestling?
Okay, so Greco-Roman wrestling is all upper body. You cannot use legs,
right?
And you cannot attack legs.
Okay.
So you're using everything that's above the waist.
Yep.
Which limits you. It's much more limited than freestyle, making it complicated in a way.
Right.
Just like Muay Thai and boxing, right?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So freestyle integrates the legs, a lot more to think about. When you were doing Greco-Roman, when did you switch to freestyle? Or when did you add it?
I had to switch to freestyle in Canada because Greco did not exist here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I moved to Montreal, I switched the sports pretty much. I went from Greco to freestyle, but it was very similar for me. It was easy to do this transition, right? It was serious back in Moscow. It was serious in Montreal as well. It's all about business.
Yeah.
It's all about getting results.
I like
there is no game. There is no play in there.
It's
just pure business.
I picked up on that for sure. Victor used to recognize me by the shirt that I was wearing. For the first year that I was there, he never called me by my first name once. He would just match me up with guys that were equal in size. And he'd say, so-and-so, go with white shirt. I'm like, Victor, my name's Randy. He's like, yeah, whatever. And next time I show up, and so-and-so, you're going to wrestle with blue shirt. I'm like, Victor, my name's Randy. For a year he went through, he never called me by my name once. And I was like, okay, I got to try to earn this guy's respect. But these are all freestyle wrestlers. I was an MMA guy trying to add wrestling to just become a better MMA athlete. So I think part of it was he didn't see me as a pure wrestler. He saw me as just an MMA guy, filling a gap. Anyway, after about a year of going there and getting smashed every Tuesday, every Thursday, and every once in a while, I'd go on a Sunday as well. One day I was walking out of the gym and, like I always do, pay my respects. Thanks, Victor. Appreciate it. See you next week. And I got through the threshold and Victor said, Randy. And he said my name. It was a moment I stopped in my tracks. I kind of backed up through the door and I looked at him as he's sitting in his seat. And I said, yes, Victor. And in his hard Russian accent, he said, you're starting to look like a wrestler. And that's all he said. And then he looked away from me and I walked out of there probably the happiest I've ever been. Like I won a gold medal. He actually called me by my first name. But the reason I share that story is there was no forgiveness and there was no sorries. You're here to train. You're going to either pick up a few things or you're going to get smashed. And it was all serious and all business. But that's how we met. Where I think, Sergey, you saw, I wanted to learn and I was there to learn, but unless you learn like literally tactilely by getting smashed and where people are putting their hands on you and how they off balance you, unless you are a learner that learns like that, it's difficult. Where there was no, here, let me take you to the side and let me walk you through this, from point A to point B. It was none of that. But then whenever you saw an opportunity or Victor paired us up, what I really appreciated was you always took a moment or two at the front end or the back end to show me something and teach me something and say, hey, put your elbow like this, or, watch your stance or do this or whatever. There was a technical component to what it is that you were trying to share with me. And that's what I remember. And there was a few guys like that too. Not all of them. Most of them just saw me as bait or meat and just got dummied. But it was an awesome experience. I loved every minute of it. And I would have been there probably more consistently if it wasn't, 2.5 hours drive with traffic, right? But it's such a cool experience, man. For the athletes today, like you're coaching now pretty consistently. For the athletes today that you provide training for, what do you see as the biggest differences maybe from the folks that you train with at Montreal or even back in Moscow? Like, what do you see as bigger differences now with the athletes today in Canada?
Well, look, there is a lot of differences now because now MMA is huge, right? So a lot of people now do wrestling for MMA.
Right.
And currently I coach pretty much wrestling for MMA or Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
So I'm not even covering a lot of elements of actual pure wrestling with them because I'm just coaching it for them.
Right. So sorry to interrupt. When you're coaching with that side kind of undertone of either jiu-jitsu or MMA, do you find that when you put together your lesson plan for the day, looking at who's on the mat, will you cater it more to MMA, more to jiu-jitsu, or do you find that jiu-jitsu or MMA, they kind of support each other anyway? So you just provide what you think would be most optimal given the fact that you can use it for MMA or jiu-jitsu?
They're similar, but yet they're different.
Very.
Sometimes I cover upper body so that I can cater to those who do Muay Thai.
Okay.
For their clinch.
Okay.
Other times when it's heavy on jiu-jitsu guys, I try to cover things like single head inside.
Right.
And I wouldn't cover too much head outside with them because
the submissions.
Yeah, because
right.
of the submissions, right?
Right.
But usually I typically go with the flow. I try to feel the energy of the room.
Yeah.
Sometimes I ask people, what would you like me to cover?
Yeah, I like those. Yeah.
And other times I just do what I think is fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to have fun.
Mm-hmm. But you can have, what I like about your approach, and if you ever get an opportunity to do a class with Sergey, you'll benefit from it. What I like about your approach is you have fun. You know, you can crack the odd joke and make the odd comments, which is funny. But there's always movement. Very, very seldom. In fact, what I really like is when you do see people just kind of feet stationary and maybe they're chit-chatting about something that has nothing to do with wrestling, you're very quick to, hey, what are you guys doing? And I like that because even that approach, the way that you do it, it's fun. Like, it's fun. You're not insulting anyone, you're not belittling anyone, but you just call them out. Like, hey, are you here to wrestle, or are you guys here to, have a coffee break? So I like that. What do you feel, or how should I say, probably better frame of reference, how do you feel like the athletes here in Canada respond to that? Or how would it be different if you were teaching back in Moscow?
Mm-hmm. Well, I go a little bit softer on people here because they just quit. A lot of them.
They will quit. Yeah.
So I'm trying to be as straight as possible, but yet I do it in a nicer way so that they just don't stop. They don't get discouraged because they're not
coming.
A lot of people are not used to taking that kind of criticism.
Right.
So I criticize them, but in a nice way, and I make it like a joke as well, so that they don't feel too bad about it.
Right.
But I want my class to just start and then take off, and then you have like the wrestling match, which is like you're building up to that,
right?
And then cool down slowly, and that's it. I don't want people to get cold and then hot again, cold and then hot, and this is how you get hurt, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I want to build a flow. I want people to have fun. Sometimes when it gets too serious, I crack a joke so that people, how to say, so that people just connect with me even more and with the whole class.
Yeah.
So that they don't go into deep thinking too much.
Right. So you read the room, you read the environment, read the feedback that you're getting either through body language or just watching them as they move. And then if you feel like it's a little bit too tense, lighten it up a little bit so that way people can still enjoy it without putting too much pressure on themselves. It's a good approach.
Exactly. Actually, body language is a big thing. I think it gives a lot, like it's a way of communication that people don't even realize.
Yeah, I agree.
So I try to watch people's body language, especially in class. And as you know, I match people for the most of the time. I don't let them just pick anyone. And this is what Victor did as well.
Yeah.
I do that for a few reasons. One is I want you to get the most out of it. Second, I don't want people to get hurt. Each time I was not 100% sure that I should match up with this guy or not with somebody else, something bad would happen.
Yeah. And I noticed that, sometimes it's with their athletic ability, sometimes it's with their weight and their size. So you don't want anyone to get hurt. That's maybe a 200-pounder wrestling with a 140-pounder. So that makes total sense. That's something that you developed under the tutelage of Victor? Yes,
definitely. Victor would match people. He wouldn't let anyone take anyone. You couldn't do that. You would get kicked out from the wrestling room.
Right.
If you did that immediately.
I remember that. I remember sitting along the edge, and because there was only so much mat space, so sometimes you'd sit out, wait for your turn and your opportunity, and Victor would call you out and match you up with guys based on the drill that he already had laid out, which I found really interesting. Why do you think? Because this now just popped into my head. Mm-hmm. I remember when David Tremblay was preparing for the 2012 Olympics, and he represented Canada in London. There was often times where Victor would pair me up with him.
Yes.
But David is phenomenal. And I had nothing for him. Like from a technical perspective, like he could dummy me at any point he wanted to. Super strong, very athletic, technically sound. Why do you think Victor would have paired him up with a guy like me that has very little knowledge? At that point, I was super green to wrestling. Why do you think he would partner up a guy like me?
There's a few reasons. One is that you're an experienced athlete, and you won't do anything crazy to hurt the guy.
Right.
That's number one. That's the most important. Number two, you're his weight. And number three, you're competitive. Even though he had better technique than you, you still went after him, and and you gave him a good run for his money, right?
Right.
So I think there's three reasons. But the number one is so that like you're a reasonable person, like you're not dangerous in the room, you know?
And it's interesting that he picked up on that, given the fact that, you know, he only saw me, you know, once, twice a week. But I don't know, I thought about it, but not really until we just had this conversation. I wonder why, you know, Victor would pair me up with David, because he was so good. But now that you say it like that, what I remember is, I would just keep going, just keep going. And we'd be shooting on his legs, and he'd just almost laugh, like, get out of here. But I would try again and try again. Anyway, it was, so much fun. One of the best experiences in my MMA career, for sure, was those 2 years at the Montreal Wrestling Club. Was a big part of it. Yeah.
Well, I think almost right away you can tell, looking at how the person wrestles or how he fights, whether this person could be dangerous to others and to himself.
Right.
And those people, I would match them up with somebody bigger, like gatekeepers.
Right.
Like I have Jeff now. He's my gatekeeper. If somebody is dangerous, I just put them with him, and I know that he can handle them.
Right on.
Yes.
That's good.
And also when the person comes all the time to class, that tells you a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, consistency.
Which you had. Victor knew that you're coming from Ottawa.
Yeah.
It's a long drive, and you consistently came.
Yeah.
So that's it. That just builds respect.
With the so right now you're teaching out of Gracie Barra here in Ottawa. They got a couple of different locations. Where are you primarily providing training for the athletes at Gracie Barra?
So at the City Center mostly, and then I also coach once a week at the Orleans location.
Right on.
Yes.
And over the last, well, you've been doing it pretty consistently for the last couple of years, I guess. What do you see with the program? Is it growing? Is it the athletes coming pretty consistently? New ones attending? Some people come and go. Is it? What do you see as a theme?
It's on and off. I have some consistent people, but again, nobody is doing wrestling for wrestling itself in my class.
They're doing it to support whatever other sport they're doing.
Exactly. So people move on with their life, and they come like later in their 20s, 30s. So I cannot make them competitive wrestlers. But and I understand that.
Yeah, and that's fair. But you can help bridge the gap where there's an element that might be missing. You can fill that hole for them, which is awesome. I find it really cool where, you know, if you step on a mat during a jiu-jitsu class, you know, there's 50, 60, some nights maybe 70 athletes on the mat, and, you know, doing jiu-jitsu, either gi or no gi, and they're consistent. And then a traditional, you know, formal freestyle wrestling class, you might have 10 or 12 athletes. Why do you think there's such a discrepancy between the two? I have my theory, but I'd like to hear it from you. Why do you think there's such a vast difference in the amount of participants that do? And I'll use jiu-jitsu as an example because a lot of people love jiu-jitsu, which is great. And it's an awesome sport.
Because a lot of people do jiu-jitsu as a recreation.
Yeah.
And it's something trendy as well. Most people outside of sports, they know what jiu-jitsu is. But a lot of people, when you say wrestling, they think it's WWF.
Right.
So a lot of people don't know this. They don't understand it. So some people do jiu-jitsu just for fun. But those who need to excel, who know that they need to excel, who are looking to achieve a lot in jiu-jitsu or MMA, they have no choice but to come and wrestle.
Right.
And which is a big step. Wrestling is tough, as you know.
Sure is, yeah.
In wrestling, you cannot just camp. You will always be attacked. You always have to be on the move. You know how in video games you can just sit, hide yourself, and you have a sniper rifle and you're just camping.
Sure.
In wrestling, it doesn't exist. Somebody will always come from behind and just shoot you in the back. That's it.
Yeah.
So there is no camping. There is no easy ways.
Yeah. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. There's no coasting. You're always in motion, and the torque that it puts on the body constantly changing levels, pushing, pulling, moving, twisting angles. Like it's difficult. My theory is it is harder than jiu-jitsu. I think, like from a physical demand. But the other thing too I find interesting is with wrestling, there's no belts, there's no promotions, there's just getting better. Where some people are motivated, and that's fine. I'm not casting shade on anybody. They're motivated by the next stripe on their belt or the next color on their belt. And I would be perplexed not to say, like, wrestling, not just for all combat sport, but in life, in self-defense, is so beneficial for people. You think of any physical altercation that would unfold, it's going to start from a standing position. Unless we get in an argument, we happen to be sitting down, but we're eventually going to stand up. And then that's where the physical engagement would happen. So I think the more comfortable we get with that initial contact in the standing position where legs are available, upper body is available, and then blending that with other elements of personal protection or sport, i.e., judo or jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai, not only do you become a more well-rounded athlete if you're doing it for combat sport purposes, but for everyday life, you just get comfortable with being uncomfortable or being attacked. I absolutely love wrestling. I think growing up as a kid, if it was something that we had exposure to more so in the East Coast of Canada, where I grew up, if I had been introduced to it, I think I really would have fell in love with it.
Well, I think you would do very good in wrestling if you were introduced to it early.
Yeah.
Like you started training very
30.
late, right?
Yeah, 30 years old.
Well, even you started with boxing, right?
Started with a little bit of boxing. I was about 26 years old. A little bit of boxing,
and even that is very late.
Yeah, and that was my first formal. Like, this is how you throw a right cross. And I was 20. Was I 26? No, I was 25 years old because my first formal class in boxing was with a member who I used to be in the PPCLI with, who grew up boxing. So he would teach me some stuff from a formal perspective. Like, here's how you throw a right cross, here's an uppercut, etc. So we dabbled with that a little bit. I was 25 years old because it was right before I did selection to come to Ottawa. And then once I did selection and I got into the kind of the battle rhythm of the unit, then I added jiu-jitsu and I started at the Ottawa Academy of Martial Arts. And the jiu-jitsu portion was, I kind of looked at it like, this is going to complement my job, right? So I started doing jiu-jitsu, and then about 6 months later, I added Muay Thai. And then it was about 6 months later, I added wrestling. And then those three disciplines is what I stayed with. But I was almost 30 years old when I started formally training in those arts.
Yes. Yeah. It's actually impressive what you have achieved, given that you started that late.
Yeah.
I started wrestling at 14, and even that was considered late in Russia.
Right.
Yes. When we went to see the wrestling coach, he said, I think he's just too old.
At 14 years old?
Yes, at 14 years old. They had kids starting at 7.
Wow.
7, 8, 9, 10. This was good age, They had kids coming from gymnastics already.
Wow.
At that age, starting at 5 with gymnastics and then moving to wrestling for like 7, 8, 9.
Wow. So in Russia, is it true? I've heard rumblings of this, but is it true that in Russia, if an athlete is identified, say at age 4 or 5 years old, they may get handpicked to go into special programs with the motivation that maybe they're going to represent Russia at the Olympics? Is that accurate?
They look for talented kids at schools. This is how my father started wrestling. Yeah. Somebody saw him, like a wrestling coach came to his school. Right. And he was watching kids play in the gym.
Really?
And my father was like more, I guess, more gifted than the average.
Right.
And he invited him to the wrestling club.
So this gentleman literally just would walk onto the schoolyard, watch kids interact with each other and whatever they were, playing or doing.
Yes.
He would identify movement patterns and say, this kid has potential.
Yes. In the USSR, they did that a lot.
Really?
Yes. Actually, they do this in China now. They genetically test kids. And based on genetics, they invite them to do specific sports.
Really?
Did you know that in China, there is almost 1 million people doing weightlifting, like Olympic weightlifting?
Wow.
So they just do genetic tests. They identify those with the highest potential, and they invite them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's happening at young ages?
At young ages, obviously.
Wow.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
That's cool.
In the USSR, they had a culture of sports overall. and especially of combat sports, specifically wrestling and boxing. I believe that sports like Taekwondo and Karate were banned at that time.
Really?
Yes, in the USSR.
In the USSR, they wouldn't do it.
Yes, they wouldn't do it. Like later on, when Gorbachev came to power, then they started to open up.
Right.
But like those sports were banned.
And why do you think today, when you watch a lot of high-level wrestlers, MMA athletes that generally come from that region, why is it that they tend to stand out? What is it that makes them just a little bit better, in Moscow or Dagestan or, some of those other areas in that region?
Yeah. Well, it's the culture of wrestling, and it's just a tough culture. Especially, let's narrow it down to Caucasus.
Okay.
So this is where most of the wrestlers come from, vast majority. So Caucasus has pretty much two parts. One part is a part of Russia. It's called North Caucasus. Okay. So from the east going west, we have Dagestan. And Dagestan has about 28 different nationalities with different languages. Oh, wow. They speak Russian to each other with a strong accent. Okay. But they have different languages.
And footprint-wise, how big is Dagestan? Like to drive from one border to the next, like what kind of distance footprint-wise are we looking at in Dagestan?
I would say it's probably like New Brunswick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you could drive from one end to the other probably 5 hours.
It has a 3 million population.
3 million people?
Yes, and different nationalities.
Wow.
So then going west, you have Chechnya, then you have Ingushetia, then you have North Ossetia, and that will come back later too. Then you have Kabardino-Balkaria, Karacháyevo-Cherkessia, and Adygea. And these are all different nationalities. Okay. They speak different languages. And they're native to the region.
Right.
And then if you go to South Caucasus, these are former Soviet republics that became independent. Armenia, this is where I'm from. Right. Georgia and Azerbaijan. So currently you have 2 UFC champions from Georgia. Right. Georgia has a population of under 5 million. And you have 2 UFC champions from Georgia.
Yeah. So, So clearly what they're doing is setting their athletes up for success. But also there's probably been, like you said, in the early days, there's been identifying factors that say this kid or this group of kids, they've got some potential. Let's foster them. Let's encourage them. Let's help them. Mm.
I think it has to do also a lot with the culture. Caucasus has a tough culture.
And when you say tough, like try to, educate, this donkey here. Like what do you, when tough means different things to different people, but like when you say tough, like.
So I spent my childhood in Caucasus in a region called Stavropolsky Krai.
Okay.
It's close to Dagestan and Chechnya. So pretty much I grew up with those people. And this is a place where you always think what you say before you say, just so that you don't insult anyone. Right. Because if you insult somebody, people just don't stop. Like it could cause
friction.
Like, well, not just friction. Like people kill each other over certain words. So you make sure that you don't insult anybody's mother. In the UFC, we had issues multiple times when people said the word motherfucker to guys from Dagestan, and then
that's insulting.
And then it was very insulting because they hear mother, and then they hear an insult. So so for words like this, you can get yourself killed. This is a place where when you drive, you don't give fingers to anyone because that's enough to get shot and killed as well. Yeah. And it's a place where the worst thing that can happen to you is embarrassment. It's almost unbearable for those people to be seen as cowards, for example.
It's interesting.
Or to be insulted or to just get embarrassed in any way in public.
So embarrassment is it's a big deal in that culture, in that region. I find that interesting. I was reading an article in human behavior article, and the article suggests that adult learners specifically, but depending on the region, the upbringing, the culture, pain, fear, and embarrassment are the 3 factors that will heavily influence how we respond, how we react, and how we carry out our life. So it's interesting that you say for folks in this region, insults and embarrassment is a big deal, and it can trigger some negative responses.
Yes. I even heard a story. I wasn't there, but there was a wedding, It was an Armenian wedding in North Caucasus where one man drank so much that he puked on the table because, well, the guy just didn't know how to drink, I guess.
Right.
And he was so embarrassed that night he shot himself.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Just from that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe he's off that liquor a little bit.
So the driving factor for those people is fear to lose in a bad way, fear of getting embarrassed, and this is what drives them for success in MMA.
Yep.
And this is one of the reasons why they're so tough.
I can see that. Yeah,
I actually use some of those techniques as well when I procrastinate on certain things, when I don't do things on time. I imagine what's going to happen to me if I don't complete that task.
Right.
Because sometimes it's hard to use the will.
Right.
Like will lasts you like specific number of times, specific amount of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I use the fear. I use the imagination of what would happen to me if I don't do that specific task.
Right.
And then I imagine myself, let's say, like a loser watching, like eating chips, doing this and that,
Yeah.
So I use it as a driving factor as well. I think it's pretty effective.
I think so too. That's amazing. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. Because without our own self-introspection and our own self-accountability, if we're relying on somebody else to tell us, hey, we needed to get X, Y, and Z done by a certain amount of time, then we fall victim to this cyclical kind of response of, I have time, I'll get it done later. But if that's interesting. So when you use that to help motivate yourself to really fire the will to make it feel as real as you're imagining that, do you put yourself back into your homeland and think like if I was a kid or if I was growing up back home, this is what may happen?
No, I usually use the now moment, and just imagine what would happen in the future if I don't do what I have to do.
Right on.
And it's a pretty effective driving factor for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think overall it's important to build a habit.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can rely on will, you can also sometimes rely on fear of certain things to push yourself, but that runs out. But when you have a habit, that just doesn't run out.
Right.
And if you can find a way to have fun while doing a certain task, then you're just a lucky person,
And what do you put in place to help yourself formulate those habits? Do you execute or exercise a certain protocol to ensure that not only are you aware of what it is that you're trying to create as a habit, but you're actually putting things in place to make it happen?
I try to find a way to enjoy that task. I just try to look for like as much, like I make it like a game. For example, if I have to work out, I would make a schedule for myself where I would just write down my results. I bench this much, I lift this much.
Right.
Like in that day, let me see if I can progress. Like I try to build it the way that it becomes fun and not just a task that I have to do, like a game.
So you create, journaling documents or something simple that you can see for yourself, but then you create your own competitive environment for yourself.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Exactly. And then once you don't have to force yourself, and once you get used to certain things, and then it becomes a habit. Right.
And what I try to exercise and what I share with folks is I call it the principle of 2 and 3. So 2 and 3 is if for an example, let's use exercise as an example. If somebody sets a goal for themselves and they want to get into a pattern of exercise and they start out on Monday and then life throws them a curveball, maybe they didn't train on Tuesday. Well, that's only one day. But if Monday they got their exercise in, Tuesday something happened where they didn't train, Wednesday is the crucial day where we don't want it to be 2 days back to back because then it becomes 3 and then now we're on our way to a habit. So what I share with people is the principle of 2 and 3. So make your 2, create your 2, add a 3 for an element of life just gets in the way sometimes. But then that third day is your reset day. That way over time, when we hold ourselves accountable, if we set a goal for training 4 out of 7 days, well, you literally have 3 days that you can flex and put it on the front end or the back end of an off day. So I don't know if that makes sense or not.
It does. I think it's a good method. And I believe in power of small steps.
Yeah.
So big goal, but small steps. And when you start with smaller steps, it's easier, because I see sometimes people come to my class for 2 weeks straight. They come the first ones, they work very hard, almost puking. They leave the last ones. I see them do other classes.
Yeah.
They're doing like Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu as well.
Right.
Like I see them all the time at the gym, and then I don't see them for a month because they just exerted themselves so much. Then they're out. They're discouraged. Then they come back.
Right.
But I'd rather see somebody who is more consistent, like doing smaller steps. Let's say that person comes 3 times a week.
Yeah.
But he consistently comes 3 times a week, and I see huge results in those people.
Right.
Because it's a power of compounding returns. I think that we have to use business and finance for sports, just like they're using sports, like they study sports to excel themselves.
Right. So there's business and finance, that understanding principles that you can apply to excel in sport.
Exactly. And it's a power of compounding returns.
So back in 2016, I was able to start working with Kydex, and the reason I wanted to start working with Kydex was because I was a left-handed shooter. Finding left-handed gear was extremely hard, so I just put 2 and 2 together, started working with Kydex, making left-handed holsters for myself. From there, quote-unquote, refined my process. Started making gear for buddies that were cops in military, and it literally snowballed from there.
Everything that we do is handmade by shooters for shooters, and there's a lot of other Kydex companies out there, and they are also for shooters by shooters. But we take the time and we care about what we do, and I think that shows in our products.
Like working here, this is our home. We brought it from home and we created a home. Our kids have worked here, so this is our home.
Okay, so compounding effects. So goal setting, training, desired effects. What do you mean? Elaborate a little bit on the compounding effect.
I think that sports has to do, like, it has a lot of parallels with investments. I know a lot of people who are looking to invest in companies that are with potential, so that they make a lot of money with a smaller investment, and usually those people get burned.
Right.
So sometimes you have to take risks in life. It doesn't happen without that. But most people that I know that invested in, let's say, biotech stocks or wheat stocks, they get burned for the most. Sometimes you can get lucky. You can invest in Tesla. Sure. Had you invested in Tesla in 2010, let's say 1,000, it would turn into 60,000 now.
Right.
And I used to own Tesla stocks, but I sold them twice. They went up, I sold, bought again, sold again.
Right.
Like, not only you have to pick a good stock that's going to go up, which is a very low probability, but also you have to have the discipline to stay with it and not realize your returns and just buy something else with it. Versus a good way to invest, I think, for the general public, is to invest in companies that are established. They're doing good, they're paying good dividend, and then that dividend that you get paid, you reinvest.
Right.
And then it builds interest on interest on interest, and this way, this way you get the power of compounding returns, and it becomes at some point almost exponential.
Right.
Versus you invest an amount in a stock that just crashes, and then you get just discouraged.
So how would you, and I agree with you, how would you translate that to a combat athlete who maybe has no interest in, at this point in his life, in investing, which is still good advice for anybody. If you got a few dollars to invest, it's wise. But now relaying that to the combat athlete.
If we draw parallel with combat fighting, I'd rather if you train consistently, you don't start like with many hours a week. Let's say you start with 3-4 practices a week, and then you don't exert yourself to 100%, and then you're working on basics. I'd rather if you do double leg thousands of times than single to chest pressure, basic finishes, and then build up of that, versus you start with you do double just a little bit, and then you start suplexing people, and then it just doesn't work all the time, those flashy moves, for example.
Right.
Like, I'd rather if you just build up yourself with basic stuff. And this is what GSP did. He got very good at double leg. He got very good at single to double. He got very good at few moves, and he was able to translate it into MMA so good. And he was beating wrestlers in MMA.
Right.
And this guy would just stay with simple things, but he did them so good that it yielded huge results.
His technique was flawless because he spent the time really solidifying the foundation of those basic movements.
Exactly.
And he was a champ for many years. He's ambassador to the sport. He did a lot of good things for MMA. He's just a genuine human being. So
yes,
that compound effect, when you think about somebody that's eager, young, like 18, 19 years old, or maybe even younger, and they have visions of fighting in the UFC one day, which is awesome, great goals to have. What advice would you give them to really to hone in on the compounding effect, but without discouraging them not to train too much too soon and potentially get hurt or burn out or what have you? How would you kind of lay that out for them?
I would tell them to have a huge goal for the future, but start small. Start with basics.
Right.
Whether you're doing wrestling, jiu-jitsu, or boxing, start with basic stuff. And this way you're not going to have gaps. Because when you go too much, like when you go too advanced, too fast, you start developing gaps.
Right.
In basic things.
Right.
So you can be an amazing athlete, but then other experienced people will just exploit your gaps, and they're going to use those gaps to beat you. And it's going to look embarrassing when you're an advanced fighter, and then somebody just submits you with, let's say, with something very, very basic. And it has happened in the UFC before,
for sure. And you see, this is actually going to be a good topic of discussion. You see in the UFC a lot of successes when you break it down and you look at what was the technique or what led up to the finish of that fight. Oftentimes it's something basic, like, straight arm lock, triangle choke, a knockout of some sort, where it's relatively basic, but it's been executed with, as close to perfection so many times leading up to the fight that under stress, under pressure, it just happened. I find it interesting when you don't see a lot of fancy finishes. I mean, don't get me wrong, it does happen, but it's more percentage-wise, it's way higher probable chance it's going to be something relatively basic.
Exactly. And same we see with striking a lot.
Yeah.
People get caught with something very, very basic.
Yeah. Left hook to the jaw, the hand was down just a little bit, there's an opening there. Yeah, it's when you dissect it, it's relatively simple. Yeah.
Exactly.
The mental side of developing a combat athlete. I see you brought a book here. What is it that you're reading, and what interests you about that book, and how do you see certain things about it, which if you want to talk about it, of course, how do you apply that to coaching and helping the younger athletes?
So this is the Harvard Business Review. It's basically a number of articles that are compiled in a book, with similar topics. So this one is on mental toughness, the one I brought with me. There are other books that I have on strategy, on negotiations, on excellence, and most of them they apply to sports as well. And a lot of them they study athletes. A lot of these articles speak about talk about athletes.
Right.
And I think we should do the same, bringing business and finance strategies into sports as well, because they work effectively as well.
Yep.
So one of the articles talks about studying the body language when you're doing negotiations with other people.
Right.
And I think it's important to study the body language for sports again. In combat sports, you naturally know the body language. It's on your subconscious level.
Right.
Because when somebody takes a step back with their power hand, you know that they're about to cross you, right, to attack you.
Right.
The same thing translates into life as well. When somebody is unhappy about something, they actually put their right shoulder, like if they're right-handed, behind them, and you know that they're unhappy. This is just our reflexes, and they naturally do that. When somebody sits with an open palm, it means he's open to you, right?
Right.
If somebody is doing this, he's not comfortable. He's hiding his vital organs, right? So I think it's important to study those as well, even though like those who do combat sports, we naturally understand them.
Yeah. And whether or not we're accurate with what we read, at least we have something that we're thinking about in terms of how do we connect with this person? You know, how do we break through whatever that barrier might be? Whether or not it's accurate, it could be just, you know, it's the way that they've turned that way. But if understanding, reading body language will help us with negotiations, communication skills, and really at the end of the day is helping others become the best version that they possibly can. What documents or books would you suggest to listeners on reading body language and how to educate oneself on you know, communicating with people?
There is one, it's by Chase Hughes. I think it's called 6 Minutes X-Ray.
Okay.
He has multiple books. He's pretty good on that. I think I would say he's one of the leading experts in the US.
Right.
He was even once on a Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh yeah.
So during that podcast, he spoke a lot about body language. So you can either get the book or just listen to his podcast.
Cool.
So I actually implement it as well, because we can study it, but we also can use body language to trick the other person. So I'm coaching one of my athletes now to fight MMA, and we're doing drills with him. And in the end of each round, I said, you have 30 seconds break in between, but after 15 seconds, you have to be back in the middle of the ring with your hands up, just to show the other guy that you have a lot of energy. And it's very discouraging to the other person.
Sure. Yep.
And he used it in the last fight. And first of all, it elevates your levels.
Yep.
And second, it discourages the other person when you guys fought so hard one round, and then he's back right in the middle waiting to fight you again. And he did the same thing before the third round.
I couldn't agree more. I tell you, like, I fought for 10 years, and there was one fight in particular that I remember really well. Fought a guy from the States, great dude, good athlete. And I was defending the bantamweight belt at that time. It was the first championship defense, and it went almost the distance. So between the fourth and the fifth round, so he was a high-level jiu-jitsu guy, and you could tell he wanted to put me on the ground and do what he was good at. And we stifled it. We had a really good strategy, good game plan, and it was being implemented. And the winning moment for me was when I looked across the cage between the fourth and the fifth round, and I read his body language, and he was reluctant to get off the stool. I knew I had him.
Okay.
And I literally remember like it was yesterday. I shifted gears, and I said, now is the time to put him away. And within 30 seconds of the fifth round, won by TKO. But it was that acknowledgement and reading his body language that something inside of me lit up. And anyway, but that being said, that's a positive takeaway. And then one from my own experience that I would share with other folks that you could learn something from is my last 3 fights were all losses. I lost those fights before I even stepped in the cage because my mindset wasn't right. And I believe, now that we're having this discussion, I've thought about it a little bit too, I believe whatever aura I was putting out there, they saw that. Mind you, I fought the last 3 fights. I fought a guy that was 10, 12, and 14 years younger than me. Now, people say what they want about age. I felt good physically. I felt good, but I was fighting for all the wrong reasons. Those last 3 fights, I was fighting to get the win, but not necessarily fighting to win. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I was fighting for the wrong reasons, and I believe that was the detriment and why I underperformed and eventually lost those last 3 fights. So reading body language, to your point, how we present ourselves, how we hold ourselves, that's being analyzed by people that we're interacting with on a consistent basis.
I also believe that people feel your intention as well.
Right.
If you go there to dominate, they feel it.
Right.
Like I remember seeing fighters in real life, and you could tell that this guy is just after people. Like he's going to dominate them, not just win.
Yeah.
He's going to just beat them down,
right.
And not because like he's a savage, he has bad intentions. No, he just wants to outclass.
And that's awesome, man. In combat sport, you kind of have to be. You got to be mean if you want to be successful. Yeah. You have to want to hurt that person. Now, when I say hurt them, I'm not talking about putting somebody in the hospital, but you have to want to hurt them. If you really want to succeed in combat sport, you have to be okay with you're inflicting pain and you're trying to be as aggressive as calculated as possible to get the desired effect. I truly believe that. If you go in daintily and with maybe too much respect for your opponent, I'm not sure that's the best course of action.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there should be balance. Like you should not definitely underestimate anyone, and you should definitely respect them because they're stepping in the cage with you. They 100%. Can get hurt. You can get hurt, right?
That's right.
But at the same time, you have to be able to inflict damage, and you have to be willing to do that, and that's the game.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to play that game, just
you're
go do something
sport.
else.
Yeah, do a different sport. I absolutely love the martial side of MMA, and that's the respect, the mutual respect where, man, this guy, he stepped in the cage with me. He knows that he's got a 50-50 chance just like I do, right? And I respect that for the martial side of the sport. I absolutely love it. I miss it. I think about my time in uniform as a Special Forces assaulter. I would say once in a blue moon. So once every couple of weeks, I'll kind of reflect and think about, either the guys at the unit or a job that we did in the past. And I reflect a little bit because it was enjoyable. I loved a lot of it. I think about fighting every single day. Yeah. Every day. It comes to my forefront of my thought process. I just absolutely love it.
And also with regards to intention, as you know, I was wrestling with GSP from the time when he wasn't, he was probably 0-0 or 1-0.
Right.
From like 2002. We're in the same, training under the same coach. And somehow I always knew that he will achieve everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I even told George many times.
Yeah.
I said, I know that you're going to achieve everything. You're going to win the UFC.
Yeah.
There was something about him, the aura, but like his intention, you could feel it. He was so dedicated.
Yes.
And he was doing everything right and perfect. Some people believe that he had good timing. He was lucky with certain things. I don't think that luck just happens like this. I think it's the intention, and I always knew that everything was going to happen perfectly for him.
Yeah.
I think that when you're able to tap into this idea, to this dream, that the whole universe will spin around you. Right. Everything will be made for you for that.
Right.
But it's not because of luck. It's because you're able to tap into it, you want it, and you work hard.
Right.
George was always working hard. So first of all, he never skipped classes.
Yeah.
Tuesday, Thursday night, he was always there. I remember when George came on Sunday morning and he smelled like cigarettes from the night before because he was working at the club as a bouncer.
Right.
So this guy would finish work at 5 a.m. and then for 10 a.m. he would be training.
Amazing.
Yes. And he did everything right. He was stretched before, warm up well always.
Yeah.
After training, he would stretch again.
Yeah.
Like everything was perfect with him.
All the little things well and doing them often.
Exactly. He had those little things covered all the time. Yeah.
And is it true that his wrestling got so good at one point there was consideration of him switching going just the wrestling route and potentially representing Canada at the Olympics. Is that a true story, or is that
Well,
false?
before that, before George was in the UFC, our coach Victor said, well, because George was already good before he was in the UFC. Victor said, George, your sport is not going to go far. You should just move to wrestling.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. But after that, yes, there were rumors that George is going to try to go for the Olympics. I think it was not true because his mind was set towards MMA.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. He had just one goal and he achieved it. That's it.
I remember doing a private lesson with John Danaher down in New York when he was still in New York at the time. This is many, many years ago. And GSP was training with him occasionally as well. And I was on the mat with another coach of mine, Mark, who you know, and we just got having this conversation. And George wasn't on the mat, but John Danaher, who's a brilliant mastermind of the sport of jiu-jitsu, he made a comment about George not being a great athlete. And I was thinking, I disagree with you 100%, man. I've seen this guy move. We've all seen him move. Like, he is an athlete, and he's extremely hard working. He does the little things really well. So I found that an interesting comment coming from a guy that's surrounded by high level athletes on a consistent basis, where I don't necessarily agree with him, but that's his opinion. He's entitled to it. So when going back to the wrestling sport side of things, who in your opinion is the greatest wrestler, either still with us today alive or has recently passed? Who do you think is the greatest wrestler ever? If anybody is going to study somebody, who do you think that should be?
Look, people define the greatest wrestler in different ways. Like, if we go with a number of Olympic Games, one, it's Lopez from Cuba. He won 5 Olympics. Also Karelin, who won 3 Olympics and got 1 silver. But I think that the toughest weight classes are somewhere in the middle, where the most, like the weight of the average person is probably like 160, 170. Mm-hmm. So I think we should take those weight classes because there was much more competition.
Right.
To me, hands down, it's Bovaisar Saitiev. And he actually just passed away recently.
What's his name again?
Bovaisar Saitiev.
Oh, yeah, you sent me the link. Yeah.
Yes. So, and there is also multiple factors why I think he's the best. So first of all, he wrestled through the times when wrestling rules got changed multiple times.
Okay.
So he started with 5 minutes straight. Then they moved to 2 rounds of 3 minutes.
Right.
Then they moved to 3 rounds of 2 minutes, where each round would be considered as just different match.
Okay.
And you get 2 of the 3 of the best.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning you can win the first one 6-0 and lose second one 1-0, and then lose third one 1-0 and lose the match.
Right.
Even though by points you win 6-2, right?
Gotcha.
So he went through those changes. He went through adversities as well. He took a big loss. So he won 1996 Olympics. And then 2000 he lost. And then he was able to come back. 2004 he won the Olympic Games.
Right.
And then 2008. In 2006, he had huge injuries. He had multiple surgeries. He came back. He lost Russian nationals to another great champion, Makhach Murtazaliyev. He lost him twice. So he wasn't going to make the national Russian team. Right. And then he was able to beat him in 2008, and he went to the Olympics and won his third gold.
Wow.
Gold, sorry. So 96, 2004, 2008. He won about 7 world championships and anything you can think of. He was a true master of wrestling, this man. And he was very humble. He had a lot of humility. I actually brought some of his quotes. Yeah. He recently passed away at the age of 49. So maybe we can just read some of his quotes. So I tried to translate this from Russian. It doesn't sound as nice as it is in Russian, but maybe you can read this.
Strength comes from the inside. It comes from the will to fight and to win. It comes from the ability to respect your opponent and self-control. Real strength derives from the ability to defeat oneself, from the ability to tolerate pain and push beyond the human limits. In sports, the expectation of victory is the wrong motivation. Really, great champions should enjoy the process of training itself.
To me, he was a philosopher.
Yeah.
Because he went through defeat. He went through so many adversities in life. I was actually a few days ago watching his interview just before he passed away. This was in March of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about being able to accept defeat and loss being the only way to train an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
He mentioned that his coach, Mintiashvili, he's a great coach, probably the best coach that ever lived. He produced a number of Olympic champions. Constantly spoke to him about the need for defeat and loss in order to build up oneself.
I agree. Yeah. I got a quote tattooed on my arm. It's a Mahatma Gandhi quote, and it's essentially and I agree with it. That's why I put it on my body. And when I read it, it resonated with me. But essentially, joy lies in the fight, in the suffering involved, and not in the victory itself. It's the struggle, it's the grind, it's the daily push. That's the joy. And I think that's what I really resonated with MMA is, maybe 10, 12, 16 weeks out, if you're lucky, a fight's coming, and, more time the better. But there's a set segment of time where everything that you do or choose not to do will have an effect, and potentially the consequences could be, victorious or maybe not so much, less optimal. But that quote resonated with me, and it sounds very similar to what you shared with us here, where a mindset to be okay with, you're gonna trip and fall every now and again. We're not always going to get the victory that we want, but it's the ability to recover, learn from the defeat, make some adjustments, and then push forward into the next day. I love it. It's awesome.
I think that the great champions are made through being address the loss, the defeat, the adversities, and the same goes in business as well.
Right.
There's a lot of great people in business who went through bankruptcies, who went through so many falls, but they were able to stand up and develop resilience and go through it. I think it has to do a lot with success.
I do too. Making those adaptation based on the consequences and what happens. It's being able to pivot, adapt, whatever words you want to choose, but roll with the punches, so to speak. It's powerful stuff. Yeah, awesome.
I would like to mention another great wrestler.
Yeah,
I think he's like second best after Bovar Sarteev. He's the best of the wrestler of 20th century. Let's put it this way.
Okay.
His name is Arsen Fadzaev. He started wrestling pretty late as well for those, for that region. He's from Ossetia.
Okay.
It's a small region in Caucasus with population of just probably 150,000. He was just wrestling kids in his school, and somebody knows him.
Mm-hmm.
He was 14 years old. They brought him to the wrestling gym, and he was on the way up from there. He was just so talented.
Mm-hmm.
He had so many natural abilities that people were just freaking out.
Right.
So this man fully dominated wrestling from 1983 to 1988. He hasn't lost a single point in the international competitions.
Come on.
And he competed world championships, Olympic Games.
Not a single point scored?
Not a single point scored on him for 5 years, and not a single defeat in 7 years. So Arsen Fadzaev won 2 Olympic Games. And he had to skip one because the Olympic Games of 1984 was in LA, and Soviet Union decided to not just go. They never brought their team to those Olympics. And the year before, he just dominated every international competition.
Wow.
So in his weight class, the American won that weight class, but Arsen Fadzaev was just giving him a one-sided beating the year before and the year after.
Wow,
and he was able to come back and win 2 more Olympic Games after that.
How old would he be?
He started competing internationally probably at 18, 19 years old, 1982, 1983.
Wow.
So he won Olympics in 1988 and 1992. So I would say in 1992, he was probably 30 years old.
Wow.
Yes.
Impressive.
Yes. And I was watching an interview with him as well recently, and he said that he tried to come back 1996, but it was for wrong reasons. And he lost. Because he said that you just have to quit on time. You just have to stop, and it's enough. But when you come back for wrong reasons, when you don't have it inside you, like, it's better not to. You just have to quit on time. And I think that translates well into MMA as well. You see some people not being able to quit on time, and they just get brain damage.
Yeah,
and,
gone too far.
And they basically ruin their own legacy, you know, with those bad losses.
That's true.
Like, I don't want to call names, but it was very painful to see certain people that used to dominate everyone, were very talented, amazing technique, amazing everything, and then you see them get knocked out by everyone.
It's tough to watch for sure. I wanted to ask a couple more questions, but one is what are your thoughts and what do you think of the reasons where Russian athletes are not welcome to compete on the international level because of everything that's going on right now? I think, like me personally, I think it's a shame because there's a lot of talent that is not getting an opportunity to showcase their abilities, whether that's a restriction that's put on the Russian athletes by the Russian government, or if that's the international community saying because of everything that's going on, we're not welcoming athletes to our games, whatever those games might be. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's obviously a shame that athletes have to pay this kind of price. Like, imagine that you're training, you're doing everything, and then you're being banned from the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
It's just ruined dreams, you know?
Yeah.
So it serves certain people, because if Russians are not there wrestling, then you can get more medals for other countries, right?
Competition is not the same.
Exactly. Competition is definitely not the same. It's not the same Olympic Games. It's not the same level. And I just feel bad for those athletes. Whatever the reason can be, you know, I just think it's wrong that people from certain countries get banned, you know?
Yeah, I do too. It is a shame because it's not a waste of talent, but there's a lot of high level talent that is not being not offered the opportunity to really develop, grow, and showcase what they're capable of. It's too bad. Hopefully things get a little bit better in the near future. But the other question I wanted to ask you is MMA. So I know you're a fan of the sport. You know, we've had great discussions off camera about MMA. Who do you believe is the top 155er right now in the UFC, and why?
Well, now the top is Ilia Topuria.
Yeah.
He's just a talented guy,
Very
hardworking guy, and he has a dream as well. Like, he has everything set up so perfectly, and he doesn't skip in training. You can tell from him fighting. Just like, pay attention to his boxing. Is just perfect.
Oh, so good with his hands.
Yeah, he's very good with his hands. Look, it would be fun to see him fight Makhachev, but Makhachev moved up.
Right.
In that weight class, I think that the only one who has a good chance is Arman Sorokin.
Okay.
I think Arman has the ability to use his wrestling to take Topuria into deep waters.
Think so?
Because once you have to wrestle somebody, once they put you against the cage and you have to defend yourself from the bottom, it's very hard to knock somebody out.
Sure.
Because, so your hands are just not the same. And I would give Arman 55% over Topuria. I just think he's a bad matchup for Topuria.
Oh, yeah. That'd be a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
And that weight category is stacked. There's so much talent in the 155 pool. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, it is.
And, you know, Topuria, listening to a couple of interviews that he's done, you don't know because there's, you know, don't know him on a personal level. Love to have a conversation with him, but he seems very calculated. Like, he seems like he has a healthy blend of confidence and humility. And when I listen to him, like, he's intelligent, and you can tell, like, he's a true professional. That's my take.
Yes. Well, I agree with you, and I think that he had a dream, and this is why he was able to achieve everything. There is a snapshot of him messaging Conor McGregor in 1996.
Oh, yeah?
And it says, "I will be like you very soon."
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And Conor never replied to that because Topuria was nobody at that time. But
sure.
but he became even bigger than like in MMA, he became even bigger name than
good for him.
Connor.
Good for him. That's awesome. Good stuff.
And he's looking to move up to 170 now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if Makhachev wins, he wants to move up to 170 and fight Makhachev.
I wonder what his walk around weight is. I wonder if that would be an easy transition for him, or if it's a tough cut for him to make 155. I wonder.
I think he probably weighs like 170 because don't forget he used to cut to 145 for many years.
Yeah.
Now he's at 155. He's saying that his cut is very like easy.
No big deal, yeah.
So maybe at 170 he doesn't even have to cut weight.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. That would be good to see. Right on. Awesome. Sergey, it's been probably coming up to an hour or so, give or take. Any final thoughts that you would like to share with the viewers? Like if you had one piece of advice based on your past experience, something that you've done that maybe you would have liked to have done a little bit differently, if you were to share that with, the combat athletes out there, jiu-jitsu practitioners, wrestlers, Muay Thai fighters, whatever it might be, what's that piece of advice that you would give them?
Just find a way to have fun in whatever you do, whether it's combat sports or something else. If you have to go to, let's say, work or go to training and you struggle all the time, it's not going to work out.
Right.
Because you cannot rely on will all the time.
Right.
If you make it fun, then it becomes a fun habit, and then it translates into something big and great,
That's awesome.
I understood it later in life.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things about training that I did not enjoy, such as like weight cut, for example. There were other things that I didn't enjoy.
Of course.
But now that I look back, I think that I could have made those things enjoyable.
Yeah.
Just like I find a way now to enjoy my work.
Yeah.
I find certain things where I can be creative.
Mm-hmm.
I add things up, I spice things up for myself, and my work is fun. I'm able to do it now.
Because you make it fun.
Exactly. And
I think when we choose words wisely to communicate internally or overtly, like for an example, I have to go to work versus I get to go to work, right? We're fortunate to have a job. We're fortunate to be healthy enough to do this line of work, whatever it might be. You don't have to do anything. But if we choose to use those words, it manifests into something that is unenjoyable, where I get to go to work, and because of that, I'm going to make, this change, or I'm going to apply this to make it fun and enjoyable. I think the words that we choose and how we communicate with ourselves can be an outward productive effect, can have an outward productive effect on anything we do in life. So I think you're bang on and enjoying the journey. Enjoy the journey.
I agree with you. I think that your words and your thinking solidifies, and it gets on your subconscious level, and it becomes a part of who you are and what you are. And right now I enjoy wrestling and training so much that it just takes me away. Like even now, I don't wrestle as much, but I coach and I jump in and move around with people as well. And I'm in a state of flow. Mm-hmm. That's it. I just forget everything else.
Yeah.
Actually, recently we went, my people went through tragic events. We had war in the region where all of my ancestors from.
Yeah.
A lot of my relatives still live there during the war, and it was basically ethnic cleansing. It was pretty much a genocide, and I had constant headaches. I just couldn't sleep at night. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Even at work, my mind was away, thinking about that. It was very tough. If I had a small child at that time, I couldn't even enjoy time with her properly. And when I came to the wrestling room, I would forget. Yeah. I would forget because I was in the moment wrestling. I would catch that state of flow, and my headache would go away for that hour.
Amazing.
And then once the training is done, my headache was back. So
yeah.
So it helped me a lot. Find a hobby like this or something in life that you can do that can take away your mind away completely.
Yeah. It's awesome. I couldn't agree more. Find that outlet. Give yourself something to think about. When people step onto the mat, sure, all those other friction points that we may have, life, family, whatever the thing is causing the friction, there's a temporary moment where that goes silent, and then you get to focus on that one thing that you really enjoy, wrestling or jiu-jitsu or whatever it might be. Such a healing factor for sure, and an outlet. Yeah, man, I could talk about this stuff for hours and hours, because I truly believe in it, and I think it is vital that people find an environment, a community that they can train, feel comfortable being there. People surrounded by others that are trying to lift you up and not bring you down. Keep things positive, but keep things real too. Like that's one thing I appreciate about our friendship is as long as we've known each other, you have no problem telling me straight, like do this, don't do that, and here's why, right? But there's no sugarcoating it. That resonates with me. Some people maybe see that as maybe a little bit too harsh or critical. I don't see it that way. I think it's a way for each of us to stay honest, right? Stay honest and stay true to why we're doing what we're doing. It's to get 1% better every week. And I think that's a great approach. Find the enjoyment, stay consistent, and have some fun along the way. It's awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that things have to be straight up, and this is why I like the environment of martial arts gym, because it's not fake. It's as real as it gets,
Mm-hmm.
And like everything is just opened up. You see it not even through just words. You see it through training itself. You see it through body language.
Yeah.
And it's life, it's as real as it gets, versus it's like mask off pretty much.
Yeah.
Like as much as possible. There's still masks, some of it left, right?
Sure.
But it's way less of a mask than life outside of the gym.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
That is for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Sergey. I appreciate you making the time today to chat with us. It's awesome, and I'm with confidence. I know the viewers will appreciate this, because there's a lot of great insights just on life, but not only life, but the sport of wrestling, which I absolutely love. So thank you very much for everything that you're doing, and thanks for making the time. You're a genuine human being, man, and I love spending time with you.
Thank you for having me, Randy. It's always good.
Cheers.
Thanks, mate.